The three-point line, NBA's biggest game changer. If you watch a classic NBA basketball film from the 1970s, you'll notice how different the game appears. The middle is clogged, forcing players to shoot from outside, and the set play activity is considerably slower and more deliberate. In comparison, today's offense is considerably more spread out, with enough room in the paint for players to attack the hoop. The inclusion of a three-point line is the most significant addition in this game, but the real question is, where did it all begin? Before we go any further, don't forget to leave this video a like and subscribe down below for more NBA basketball related content. Make sure to hit the bell icon to get notified when we post our videos. Ooh, let's play full court, baby! Your go-to channel for the most interesting basketball topics. The beginning. The American Basketball League was the first professional league to implement the three-point line in 1961. The ABL only lasted 2 seasons before collapsing, thus, the three-pointer faded soon after. The NBA, which had been in existence since 1946, had never really considered it at the time. However, when a new league competing against the NBA was conceived in the mid-1960s, the three-point shot was reintroduced. Following the demise of the American Basketball League in 1963, the three-point shot was adopted and popularized by the American Basketball Association, which used it in its inaugural 1967-68 season. At the time, Commissioner George Mikan saw the three-point line as a way to give the smaller player a chance to score and open up the defense, which would make the game more enjoyable to fans. They called it the home run because the three-pointer was exactly that, and it brought fans out of their seats. On August 5th, 1976, the National Basketball Association, combined with its competitor, the American Basketball Association, has acquired the ABA's 4 most successful franchises: the Denver Nuggets, the Indiana Pacers, the New York, later Brooklyn Nets, and the San Antonio Spurs. 3 years later, in June 1979, the NBA introduced the three-point line for the 1979-80 season, initially on a 1-year trial. This was also the time when Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were both selected in 1978 and 1979 NBA draft respectively. The application. When the ABA introduced the three-pointer in the late 1960s, a generation of coaches had to reassess all they knew about the game, which caused chaos. One ABA coach acknowledges that he never utilized the three-pointer at first unless his team was down late in the game and really needed points. Boston Celtics president and coaching icon Red Auerbach criticized the three-pointer as a gimmick designed to overcome low television ratings, saying they don't need three-pointers and just leave the game alone. Phoenix Sun coach John McLeod, criticizing the shot that is still heard today, remarked that he's not going to put up some plays for people to shoot from 23 feet. Other coaches experienced similar problems adjusting to the new reality. Basketball was played differently before the three-point line was created. They need to pound the ball inside and score 2 points for the team. Although this goes against the coach's philosophy at the time, they must respond to the changes and execute new techniques for their shooters to clear up space on the court. This will provide the shooters a chance to shoot the 25-footer. It wasn't simply the coaches, although the fans absolutely loved it straight away. But there were some growing pains among the players. It took some time for players to understand time and score in certain situations, as well as when to take it. Coaches also know that players who were not accustomed to playing with a three-point line had to work hard to gain the range. Michael Jordan is a prime example of this. He played collegiate basketball in North Carolina without a three-point line. He shot 9 for 52 from three-point shooting in his debut season with the Chicago Bulls. Until his 6th season in the NBA, he never shot better than 20% from long range, but by the end of his amazing career with the Bulls, he was regularly hitting more than 35 points from three-point range. The length of the three-point line varies by affiliation. Three-point shots in an NBA game are not the same distance as they are in the WNBA, FIBA, or NCAA. In NBA, the three-point line was placed 22 feet from the hoop in the corners and 23 feet and 9 inches from the top of the arc. The NBA implemented a change in the 1990s with the goal of increasing the average points per game, which had been decreasing for the previous 10 years. In an attempt to counteract the lower scoring, the league dropped the three-point line distance from 23 feet and 9 inches to 22 feet for 3 years between 1994 and 1997. Some players, such as Steve Kerr and Del Curry, father of Seth and Stephen Curry, made or broke records with long-distance jumpers. But when the results were not as expected, the NBA chose to shift to the original three-point line distance, which is still in use today. The evolution. Teams realized that shooting 50% from a two-point region of the floor, a feat that the league has never achieved collectively, would result in the same number of points per game as shooting 33.3% from three on every shot. Since 1997-98, when the NBA averaged 12.7 three-pointers a game, the league has increased to 34.7, and points per game is the highest it has been since the 1970s. It may not be obvious, but the three-point line is still changing the game today. After the NBA moved the line back in 1998, the pattern continued, as three-point attempts gradually increasing practically every year until they began to skyrocket in 2013. NBA teams will attempt 35.1 three-pointers on average in the 2021-22 season. That's nearly double the quantity of shots from 2011-2012. Traditionally, size was an important role in players' matchup, but the three-point line was a wonderful equalizer for smaller teams. Even the post players get into the action every once in a while. Shaquille O'Neal is 1 for 22 from three-point range in his career, with one being an epic bank shot buzzer beater. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar spent half of his professional career without a three-point line and the other half with one. In his career, he shot 1 for 18 from beyond the arc. When we look at the numbers by position, we can see that until the 2007-2008 season, the distribution of three-point attempts among teams was clear. Point guards and shooting guards attempted the most shots. Small forwards closely followed, power forwards shot very little from deep, and centers almost never. That has changed dramatically over the years. Today, point guards, shooting guards, small forwards, and power forwards all take a comparable number of three-pointers, with the exception of centers, who continue to shoot much fewer threes, unless, of course, if you're Dirk Nowitzki. It's not surprising that three-point attempts by wings and even power forwards are on the rise in a league where the most frequent play is a 1-5 pick and roll, with positions 2-4 spreading the floor. The increasing trend in threes has influenced not just how the game is played, but also who plays it. Big post players may be able to get away with not providing much offense. There's an old saying, if you can walk and chew gum, you might be a starting center in the NBA, but it felt like guys like Andrew Bynum, Roy Hibbert, Kendrick Perkins, and Samuel D'Alembert vanished overnight in the middle of the last decade. The 7-foot beasts who had patrolled the paint for generations in the NBA couldn't keep up with a significant move towards pace and space, and smaller centers and power forwards took their place. Blake Griffin was one of these latter guys, but even he was on the verge of losing his status in the NBA and had to dramatically change his style before joining the Nets. He hired a shooting coach shortly after his first season to help him improve his shot. He didn't really start focusing on three-point shooting until his third or fourth year in the league, and by his fifth or sixth year, he was taking more and more. Griffin, a career 33% three-point shooter, has improved to 38% since joining Nash's team, due largely to a more offensive approach. The trend. We are now in the three-point era of basketball, in which teams and players attempt to make as many high-quality three-pointers as possible. Teams who can shoot close to 40% from three-point range are much more likely to win than teams that stick to shots inside the three-point line and average 50% shooting. This kind of basketball is undoubtedly here to stay, thanks to players like Stephen Curry completely revolutionizing the game with his shooting. Other than Stephen Curry, we've seen guys like Klay Thompson, James Harden, Trae Young, and Damian Lillard live and die by three-point shots. Those men, like others, have a habit of pulling up as many threes as possible. But as a team, who would have guessed that the Utah Jazz would field a squad that would go on to become the best three-point shooting team of all time? The Utah Jazz set an NBA record by making the most three-pointers per game in a single NBA season. At 16.8 three-point attempts per game, they would have surpassed the previous record of 1,378 held by the Houston Rockets in a normal 82-game season. Due to a shorter season, the threes per game record will suffice, which is an extraordinary accomplishment. Will teams shoot even more threes in the future? Teams like the Houston Rockets, then coached by Mike D'Antoni, made it a point to shoot exclusively three-pointers or layups. But why is this the case? In a nutshell, teams should shoot more three-pointers if the expected value of a three-pointer is larger than the expected value of a two-pointer. The shot selection has greatly changed in 2022, and the difference is almost none. Players no longer rely on ineffective mid-range jumpers. At the same time, Projected points per three-point attempt have declined because teams are getting better at guarding the three-point line and players are taking more difficult off-the-dribble threes than they used to. If players become even more skilled at three-point shots, the NBA changes the rules, or teams develop new defensive techniques to better defend three-pointers. This might change again, and modern analytics would be used by teams to get the most out of every shot. Older fans may criticize basketball for not being as physical these days, and they may chuckle at the amount of three-point attempts, but that statistic is expected to rise for a long time. Basketball is improving, and the data helps us understand how and why. Statistics can also educate us how to respond appropriately with the fast-moving times. We hope you enjoyed the video topic today. Subscribe to our channel, Full Court, for more interesting basketball topics.